A very good day to all my listeners all across the globe. And welcome back to my podcast. This is George Nathaniel for you. As I always do, I come back with very simple topics that are relevant in our lives, and topics that can help us grow in all our endeavors. So, what is my topic for today? Well, today I've taken a topic on myself. Today I've taken a topic on advice that I have received from my dad while I was a kid. So, the subject line on my topic today is commitment on long term goals. So, when we talk about commitment on long term goals, what are we looking at? Well, each one of us has a goal in life, each one of us has a vision, and each one of us works towards that vision at every stage of our life. So, let me share the kind of advice that I received from my dad while I was a kid. Well, as a kid, we were all into sporting activities. We all had our hobbies. We all had our ways of spending time. So, as a kid, I was an avid kite flyer. And every evening, after finishing my work and my studies, I would go up to fly kites. And my dad was not exactly a kite flyer, but he enjoyed watching them. And then one day, as we sat down to discuss, I asked him, "What do you mean by commitment on long term goals?" Well, he was very precise when he gave me these excellent words of wisdom. He said, "Achievements and success are in two ways, and you need to find a way to mold them together." Well, that was a little too high fi for me, but nevertheless, I paid a lot of attention to what he said. He said, "Achievement and success is like how high and how low." So when we see how high, we see high is how high as in within our means, and how far one is going places. High is always easier to manage due to limitations. Far takes you a lot, much more further, depending on the efforts that you put in. High is a populated place. Far is gone over by a few. And post that, everyone goes on to their own direction. High as is lows. Far is always within means of getting somewhere and getting across a lot of things in life. So then he went on to say that high and far needs to be mediated well in life, and we need to make sure that we mold them if we want to be successful in life, if we want our life to be meaningful. Well, at that age, curiosity made me ask, what is ideal? And I kept on flying my kites on that particular evening. He said, looking at my kite, he said, "Fly above the rest and beyond the means of test." I was kind of confused as fly above the rest and beyond the means of test. That's something I never understood. So then he said, when you're doing something, reason its results and justify efforts. When you're going towards your goals, prepare well and keep building alternatives. Once you're gone beyond landmarks, never undermine things as no one knows what's next. Stay firm around growth. Start over new goals. Learn to start from scratch over every new beginning. Well, these things definitely made a lot of sense to me. And as I was adding these things to my life and adding me to my life, I was trying to relate how much more I could gauge out of this advice. Then he said, trust the time around. This advice I didn't really understand, and I was quite kind of confused while flying my kite and also listening to his advice. Well, as I showed a little more eagerness and asked him, I said, Dad, can you be a little more clear? Can you give me an example? Or can you relate what you said with an example? Well, he looked at me and said, See, I see your kite. It's quite far up in the sky. So let me give you an example that will be easy to relate. He said, Look at that eagle. Many of us refer that as a kite as well. I said, Yes, definitely we do. He said, See, it's enjoying its space, yet keeping an eye for himself. Well, that made a lot of sense. And the eagle was definitely enjoying his space, yet keeping an eye for himself. Then he went on to say that when he wants something, he would know when and where to dip to get its steak. Well, that is something that we all knew, and that's something that we all know. So that really made sense. Then I said, let me add the same meaning to my life. And then for a week, as I went up to fly kites, I spent more time watching over the eagle. I found more time trying to relate and trying to trust his advice. So, listeners, as we relate to our personal and professional lives, as we relate to our long term goals, let us understand what are the key pointers that I keep talking about in all my podcast and how can we make it matter in our lives. And when we talk about commitment on long term goals, what are the important key pointers that can make our life even more meaningful? Well, I would say what is very, very important, be it in a personal life or professional lives, we need to dwell well. Because at the end of the day, each one is answerable for himself, and each one is known by his own identity. Number two, I would say, is to value achievements. It's very, very important to value achievements. Because if we don't value our own achievements, how can we expect others to value them? Number three, I would say to contribute meaningfully. So, whatever we are contributing in life, be it in our own individual efforts, helping others, or helping anything within our means, we need to contribute meaningfully. Number four, which is very, very important, is live life moments to cherish. So, when you talk about live life moments to cherish, it means every moment is special, every moment is important. So, let us make the best of every moment that we have. And the most important, above all, is to stay connected and stay well. So I think if we relate to these key takeaways, and I think if each one of us makes a list of their own key takeaways and relate to their own lives in terms of their professional or personal goals or achievements or accomplishments or how they can contribute more to society, I'm sure each one will be bigger achievers in life. My podcast is always very simple. My podcast is always very generic because each one of us have different goals. Each one of us is a different individual and each one of us are blessed with different talents in life. So listeners, I hope you like listening to my podcast. My podcast is available on every platform. I also have my blog website which is georgenathaniel.net. Come and read my blogs, listen to my podcast, put in your request. I'll be more than happy to come back and share some kind of experience that I have learned in life. I would share some kind of experience that will help you value your own lives, grow in your own lives, and make things even more meaningful. I hope you like listening to my podcast. And before I end the podcast, let me share something very valuable. Although I don't fly kites anymore, but that never stops me from looking up in the sky and admiring the kites. That is the eagle. It always keeps me amused and always keeps me happy and always teaches me that if you want to be successful, if you want to be an achiever, you need to think like an eagle, be like an eagle, fly like an eagle. So I hope you like listening to this podcast. The topic was commitment on long term goals. This is George Nathaniel. Thank you so much, and I wish you all success in all you do in life.